Hello, I'm Melissa Kavanagh. I'm the Director of Analytics at Fuel, located in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm here today to share with HSMAI the latest round of our consumer sentiment study. About this study, anyone who hasn't seen my previous presentations, we've been doing this for quite a while now. Our surveys are sent to a database of North American leisure travelers. On this round of the study, we've had about 1,400 completed surveys. And on this round, we did ask some more questions of people who have traveled during the pandemic. We also broke down our data by some age comparisons because we haven't done that in quite some time, so we thought we would add that back into our data set for this round. So starting out, we did ask, have you traveled since March 15th? And we did find that 50% of people have said that they have traveled since the pandemic started. Now, this is quite an increase from the last survey that we did, which was about a month ago. We were at 34% on the last survey, so quite a big jump since then. Looking at this by age, we had 57% of those who are in Generation X or younger who did say that they have traveled since the pandemic started. We asked what the reason was for the recent trip. Most people said it was a planned vacation, but more than 30% said that it was a last-minute vacation. For those who had write-in responses, the majority of those were for family trips. Where did you stay? An overwhelming amount of people did say that they did stay at a hotel, motel, or resort. No other options came even close to that. Friends and family was next most popular, but again, just not even 15% came up with that response. Did the property communicate the following to you prior to your recent stay? So we wanted to find out how hoteliers are doing in terms of communicating what's going on property and off property before their guests arrive. On the positive side, people do seem to be aware of updated cleaning protocols at the property. They are also aware of the mask requirements. At least 50% said that they were aware of updated check-in procedures. But at the bottom of this is the status of local restaurants and the status of local attractions and activities. Just 35% said that they knew the local restaurant statuses, and only 25% were aware of the attractions and activities. So this question was asked to the database as a whole, not just the people who traveled, asking the next time you do travel, what would you like to hear from properties before you stay? And you'll see that the top two are in line with what people have been hearing. However, you can see that number 3 is the open status of local restaurants. So almost 70% saying they want to know the status of local restaurants, and not far behind that, here we're at 60% who are interested in finding out the status of local attractions. So just as a comparison to what we just saw on the previous slide, only 35% of consumers said that they had received the status of local restaurants versus more than 70% who actually want to receive that. But just a reminder that hoteliers need to be the source of information as it pertains to their local area. It's really, really important. Consumers want to know this information. They're not coming on a vacation to stay in the 4 walls of your hotel. They're coming on vacation to do other things, and it's very, very important that they know what's available to them so that their expectations can be managed once they arrive. So we're back to a question for travelers, people who have already traveled. Did the property meet your expectations in the following areas? And this is looking at cleanliness of the common areas, cleanliness of rooms, social distancing enforcement, availability of amenities, the check-in process, and overall safety. And overwhelmingly, this is the second survey we've asked this question. Most people are have met their expectations at least, or have exceeded on all counts. The 2 lowest areas of satisfaction continue to be the social distancing enforcement and the availability of amenities. We actually did see an uptick in the availability of amenities in terms of not meeting expectations. We're at 17% versus 16% on our last survey. If your desired destination implements a mandatory mask ordinance, how will this impact your travel plans? This question, or the results of this question, have been in such flux with every time we've asked it. It's been very interesting to see how consumers' feelings are changing basically week by week about this topic. So on our last survey, you can see that we had almost 50% of people that said that a mask ordinance would not change their decision. And then we had 19% who said they would be less likely to travel to a destination with a mask ordinance, and 35% would be more likely to travel. Now, compared to the first survey we asked about this, we definitely saw a shift in more people saying they'd be more likely to travel there. In this survey, you can see that this pie chart is much more evenly distributed, but we're still at the same 35% of people who would be more likely to travel. It's just these two segments of the pie chart that have now shifted pretty drastically. So now we're down to 35% who said that they would be unchanged in their decision if there was a mask ordinance, versus the increase of, we're up to 30% of people who said they would be less likely to travel to a destination with a mask ordinance. Pick the top 3 reasons that would prevent you from staying at a hotel right now. We have asked this question on every round of our survey. Most important thing to note on this round is that, quote unquote, nothing is preventing me is now in the number 2 position, and it's got just over 30% of the votes. So that is very encouraging for hoteliers. Fear of other guest interactions remains the very top concern, and it has been the top concern since we've started asking this question. Now, we did look at this response by age group, and nothing is preventing me was actually the top choice for people in the Generation X and younger group, followed by budget concerns, and then I have already traveled. So looking at the younger groups of people, there really isn't a quote-unquote fear of traveling, at least not at the top of what's stopping them. If anything, it's money. It's not fear of the impact of the virus. How would the following hotel protocols increase your confidence in staying at a property? We've asked this question now 2 times. The results have been very similar on both results, and you can very much see here that a deep cleaning, quote unquote, between guests is going to have the greatest increase in confidence in people staying at a property. And we purposefully left that as sort of vague language on the survey. It's up to interpretation. And, looking at sealing the room between, after it's been cleaned, or leaving the room vacant for 24 or 48 hours, while yes, they all do have some increase in confidence, it's nowhere near just stating, whatever this means, that a deep cleaning has taken place. Second most popular, and this was true on the last round, was the TV remote being in a sealed bag. 53% said that it would greatly increase their confidence. So such a simple thing that if a property can do that, you've got a better chance of making guests feel more confident. I will say that across the board, compared to our last survey, those saying that these things will have no impact has increased quite a bit. So it just seems that safety is starting to be a little bit less of a concern, where these things are just saying, you know what, this really isn't going to impact whether I stay or not stay. How likely are you to book a trip in the next 30, 60, 90 days, 6 months, or in the next year? This is another question we've asked on every round of our survey. On this round, we had 55% of respondents that said maybe or higher within the next 30 days. So these three squares. And that is up substantially from our last survey. We were at 45% on our last survey. And we're almost back at the highest that we've seen this confidence, which was at 57%, which was 3 surveys ago. So that was back in June. So it's great to see that confidence has nearly back to where we had once seen it. And reminder that this survey has gone out just before the Labor Day weekend. And I'm curious to see, we just sent another survey out at the end of last week, and we'll certainly be curious to see what these numbers look like since then. How soon will you be willing to make the following trips? And this is looking at distance from home. These numbers have drastically shifted, and it's really a very telling story. You can see very, very clearly that driving up to an hour from the house, over 68% said they're ready to travel within a month, almost 54% for up to 2 hours, and then almost 39% for driving up to 3 hours. So looking from the last survey to this survey, the 1 hour drive category was at 53%, and now we're up to 68%. The 2 hour category was at 40%, we're now up to 54%, and then 3 hours increased from 29% up to 39%. So all 3 of those categories had at least 10 percentage points difference from our last survey. So when you couple this with the data that we just saw about the increased readiness to travel within the next month, and that 50% of people have already traveled, I think if hoteliers can really, really hone in on targeting their drive market, they will come out of this in a much better position than if they don't do that. That is all that I have for this round of our study. If you have any questions, you can feel free to email me at mkavanagh@fueltravel. I would encourage everybody to go to the Fuel Travel website, where you can see the full results of this study as well as all the other studies that we've put out, and you can get to that at fueltravel.com/blog. Thank you all for letting me present this information to you. I hope everyone is doing well. Until next time, stay safe and talk to you real soon.